My name is Sonia B. Lee. I'm 30 years old, and the night my boyfriend handed me back the key to our apartment and said, I think we should just be friends. I didn't cry, I didn't argue, I just took the key and walked away. At the time, it didn't even feel real. 4 years. That's how long Daniel Carter and I had been together. 4 years of building something that felt solid enough to plan a future around. We met during a summer program in Barcelona, the kind of accidental encounter that feels like fate when you're young enough to believe in it. He was there for a business seminar, I was studying design, and somehow in 3 weeks we became inseparable. Long distance lasted 8 months after that. 8 months of late-night calls, expensive flights, and promises that felt too big to break. Then I moved across the country for him. That's how sure I was. The apartment he gave the key back to that night was ours. 2 years of shared mornings, quiet dinners, and a proposal that happened on the balcony overlooking the park. He had planned it carefully. My favorite wine, soft music, a ring he told me later he had saved for months to buy. At the time, I thought that meant something permanent. Now I know better. Rachel, that was her name. Daniel's ex-girlfriend from college, the one he always described as a mistake, the one who cheated on him, humiliated him, left him with stories he told like warnings. She's toxic, he used to say. I'd never go back there. 3 weeks before everything fell apart, she came back. A message, an apology, a second chance disguised as closure. Daniel told me about it one evening while we were making dinner. He said it casually, like it didn't matter. Rachel reached out, he said, stirring the pasta like he was commenting on the weather. I remember glancing up at him, knife paused mid-air over the cutting board. What did she want? To apologize, he said. Said she's changed. Therapy, new job, all that. And what did you say? He shrugged. Just that I appreciated it. That should have been the moment I paid closer attention. But I didn't. That was my mistake. Over the next 2 weeks, something shifted. Not suddenly. Not dramatically. Just enough that if I wasn't paying attention, I could have convinced myself it was nothing. He smiled at his phone more, turned the screen away when I walked by, started going out at odd hours, said he was tired when I tried to get close to him, but stayed up late anyway, texting someone. I told myself I was overthinking, until that Saturday morning. We were sitting on the balcony, coffee in hand, the same place he had proposed to me, and I asked the question I had been avoiding. Are you talking to Rachel? He didn't hesitate. Yeah, he said, we've been catching up. Something inside me tightened. How often? I don't know, he said, every few days. What's the big deal? I set my cup down carefully. The big deal is you're in a relationship with me. He exhaled sharply, like I was the one being unreasonable. I'm allowed to have friends, Sonia. You're being insecure. That word, insecure. It landed heavier than anything else he could have said, because it turned my concern into a flaw, made me question whether I was the problem. 2 weeks later, everything broke. He told me he was meeting his sister for drinks. I had a work dinner that night, so I didn't question it. But my dinner got canceled last minute. I texted him, Hey, can I join you guys? No response. 40 minutes later, he replied, Already heading home. She wasn't feeling well. I was already home, waiting. He walked in just before midnight. The moment he saw me sitting in the dark, he froze. Where were you? I asked. He laughed nervously. Out with my sister, I told you. I watched him carefully. She posted an Instagram story 2 hours ago, I said. She's at a concert. The silence that followed said everything. His expression shifted. Calculation. Then surrender. Okay, he said quietly. I was with Rachel. My chest tightened, but my voice stayed steady. And? Nothing happened, he said quickly. We just talked. She's going through a lot. And you lied to me because? Because I knew you'd react like this. Like this. Like someone who didn't want her boyfriend sneaking around with his ex. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing now. You don't understand, he said. We never got proper closure. I stared at him. You're engaged, I said softly. He stopped walking. Then slowly he reached into his pocket and placed the apartment key on the counter. I need space, he said. The room went completely still. For a second, I thought I misheard him. Space? I think, he hesitated. I think we should just be friends. For now. For now? Like this was something temporary. Reversible, like he expected me to wait. I looked at the key, at the man I thought I was going to marry, and something inside me went quiet. Not broken. Just done. I picked up the key, looked him in the eyes, and said the only thing that felt true. All right. Then I turned and walked away. I didn't slam the door when I left. I didn't cry in the hallway or call anyone in a panic. I just walked out of the apartment, got into my car, and sat there for a long time with my hands resting on the steering wheel, staring straight ahead. It was strange. 4 years of my life had just been reduced to a single quiet moment, and I felt nothing. Not yet. The next morning, reality settled in, not as a wave of emotion, but as clarity. I called my older brother, Kevin. He's a lawyer, not the kind that handles breakups, but the kind who understands how people behave when things get messy. I told him everything. He didn't interrupt, didn't offer sympathy. When I finished, he said one thing: "Change the locks." I blinked. "That's it?" "That's it," he said. "Don't argue. Don't negotiate. Don't wait for him to figure himself out. He already made a choice. Now you make yours." That was all I needed. By noon, the locks were changed. I packed Daniel's belongings carefully, not out of kindness, not out of anger, but out of finality. Clothes folded, shoes boxed, books stacked, everything labeled and placed neatly in the spare bedroom. No drama, no destruction. Just gets closure. That afternoon, my phone buzzed. "Daniel, can we talk tonight? I made a mistake. Can I come over?" I stared at the message for a few seconds before replying. "No, your things will be ready for pickup Saturday between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Bring someone to help you move them." 3 dots appeared instantly. "Please, Sonia, I need to explain." I didn't respond. Over the next few days, the messages came in waves. Apologies. Excuses. Long paragraphs about confusion, about needing closure, about how nothing physical had happened with Rachel. I read none of them twice. By Thursday, the tone shifted. From regret to frustration. "You're really going to throw everything away over a misunderstanding?" I didn't reply to that one either. Then came something unexpected. A message from Rachel. "Hey, Sonia. Daniel told me what's going on. I just want you to know nothing physical happened between us. He's just confused. Don't punish him for having feelings." I read it once, then blocked her immediately. That was all I needed to know. Saturday morning came faster than I expected. 10:15 a.m., the doorbell rang. I opened it. Daniel stood there, Rachel beside him, and behind them, his sister. Interesting. I stepped back, holding the door open just enough. "Everything's in the second bedroom," I said calmly. Daniel looked at me like he didn't recognize me. "Can we talk?" "No." 5 minutes. "No." Rachel shifted uncomfortably beside him. "Daniel, maybe we should just—" He ignored her. "Sonia, please." I met his eyes. "You're in my home," I said quietly. "I suggest you start moving boxes." His sister stepped in first, grabbing one of the labeled boxes and heading toward the door. Rachel followed. Daniel stayed. Of course he did. "I love you," he said suddenly. The words hung in the air. Once they would have meant everything. Now they felt late. "I got confused," he continued. "Rachel and I, it was just emotional. Nothing happened, I swear." "It doesn't matter," I said. His face tightened. "How can you say that? We were going to get married." Were," I repeated. The word hit him harder than anything else I'd said. "Your ring is in the dish by the door," I added. "Take it or leave it." His eyes filled with tears. "Sonia," I felt something shift inside me then. Not anger, not sadness, just distance, the kind that doesn't close. He looked at me for a few more seconds, like he was searching for something. Anything that might still be there. He didn't find it. Slowly, he walked to the door, picked up the ring, and left. It took them 45 minutes to clear everything. When the door finally closed behind them, the apartment fell into complete silence. I stood there in the middle of the living room, surrounded by empty space where his things used to be. And for the first time in weeks, I could breathe. Not because I had lost something, but because I had stopped holding on to it. 3 months passed. At first, I measured time in small survival units. One morning without checking my phone. One evening without replaying the moment Daniel set that key on the counter. One full day without wondering whether I had been too cold, too proud, too unwilling to fight for what we had. Then slowly, almost without me noticing, survival turned into routine. I threw myself into work and ended up getting promoted. I started going to the gym again, something I had let slide during the relationship because somehow Daniel's moods had started taking up more space than my own body ever did. I reconnected with friends I had neglected, went out more, said yes to dinners, said yes to invitations, said yes to parts of my life I had been postponing without realizing it. Thanksgiving came faster than I expected. My brother Kevin invited me to his place, and I almost said no. Holidays felt heavy that year, like they belonged to another version of me, but I went anyway. That was where I met Adrian. He was Kevin's wife's cousin, in town from Seattle for the week, and from the moment we started talking, it felt easy. No performance, no second guessing, no strange undercurrent where I had to scan every word for hidden meaning. He was warm, funny, observant in a way that made me feel seen instead of managed. At one point, we ended up in the kitchen together, doing dishes, while everyone else watched football in the living room. He told me about his last relationship, how his ex had borrowed money from him for a business idea that turned into a disaster. I told him a little of mine, not everything, just enough. "At least you got out," he said. I looked at him for the second, then laughed softly. "At least you got out." He smiled. That was the beginning. We exchanged numbers, started texting, nothing dramatic, just small conversations that stretched longer than either of us expected. He came back for Christmas, and on New Year's Eve, we walked around the city for hours, talking until almost 3 a.m. I wasn't looking for anything. That was probably why something real had room to find me. Then February came. It was a Tuesday night, a little after 9. I was in my kitchen making stir-fry, half listening to music, half thinking about whether Adrian would make fun of me for using too much garlic again, when there was a knock at the door. I wiped my hands on a towel and opened it. Daniel stood there. For a second, I genuinely thought I was imagining him. His eyes were swollen. His face looked thinner. He was wearing the same jacket he had on the night he left, which I noticed immediately, and hated that I noticed at all. "I'm sorry," he said before I could speak. "I'm so sorry." I just looked at him. The hallway light caught the shine of tears on his face, but whatever that sight would have done to me 6 months earlier, it did nothing now except confirm that time had moved exactly the way it needed to. "Marcus," he said, then stopped and shook his head at himself, like he couldn't even get his own thoughts straight. "Rachel and I, it didn't work. Of course it didn't work. She's the same person she always was. I found out she was talking to other men the entire time. One of them even sent me screenshots last week." I leaned against the doorframe. "Okay," I said. He blinked at me, almost wounded by how little I was giving him. "I thought about you every day," he said. "Every single day. I kept thinking you'd call, that you'd show up, that you'd fight for us." "There was no us to fight for," I said. He flinched. "I panicked," he said. "That's all it was. Things were getting serious and I got scared, and Rachel was familiar, and I made the biggest mistake of my life." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. "I don't care why you did it, Daniel." That seemed to hit him harder than anger would have. He wiped at his face, trying and failing to pull himself together. "Can I come in? Please, I know I don't deserve it, but just 5 minutes. Let me explain everything." "No, I still love you." I almost smiled at that, but there was no warmth in it. "I never stopped," he added quickly, "and I know you still love me too." That was the moment I nearly laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was astonishing. He really thought the door had stayed open just because he had left it that way in his head. "I don't," I said. He stared at me. "You're lying." "I'm really not." And then his eyes shifted past me, toward the apartment, toward the 2 wine glasses on the counter, toward the man's jacket hanging on the chair near the kitchen. Adrian had left it there the night before. Daniel's whole face changed. "You're seeing someone." That's none of your business." "How long?" The question came out sharp, almost panicked, like suddenly time mattered in a way truth never had when it was my pain on the line. "Does it matter?" I asked. "Yes, it matters." I held his stare for a beat. 3 months. His expression cracked. "And before you ask," I added, "no, I didn't cheat. I met him after you left." Daniel's knees gave a little, and he sank down against the hallway wall, crying openly now. Not the controlled kind of crying people do when they still want to look dignified. The kind that spills out ugly and helpless because reality has finally arrived, and there's nowhere left to hide from it. A year ago, that would have destroyed me. 6 months ago, it might have made me hesitate. Now all I felt was a distant kind of pity. "You should go," I said quietly. He looked up at me through tears. "I gave up everything for you." I shook my head. "No," I said. "You gave up everything for the idea of Rachel. And when that fell apart, you came back looking for what you thought would still be here." He opened his mouth, but I was already stepping back. That isn't my problem." Then I closed the door. Locked it. He knocked for a while after that. Maybe 10 minutes, maybe less. Long enough that I noticed it, not long enough that it changed anything. Eventually, the hallway went quiet. I stood there for a moment with my hand still resting on the lock. Then I picked up my phone and texted Adrian. "Random question. Want to come over? I made too much food." He sent back a message almost immediately. "On my way." He arrived 20 minutes later with dessert he had clearly grabbed from the first place still open, and we ate dinner in my kitchen while I told him what had happened. He didn't interrupt, didn't overreact, didn't turn it into a dramatic speech about karma or revenge. He just listened. And somehow that felt bigger than anything Daniel had said at my door. "It's been 7 months since that night. Adrian moved here from Seattle 3 months ago. We're not rushing anything. No dramatic declarations, no desperate promises. Just something steady, honest, and calm in the exact ways that matter. Daniel blocked me after that. Apparently Rachel moved back to her hometown. I heard through mutual friends that she's dating someone else now. Maybe that's true. Maybe it isn't. I don't care enough to find out. I kept the ring Daniel gave me. Not because I wanted the memory, but because I wanted the ending. I had the stone reset into a completely different design and gave it to my mother for her birthday. She cried when she opened the box. Then she laughed and said she never liked him anyway. Mothers always know. Sometimes I still think about that night. The key in his hand. The way he said he thought we should just be friends, as if that was something I was supposed to wait through. As if he could leave me half open and half hopeful while he tested another life. I'm glad I didn't beg. I'm glad I didn't chase him. I'm glad I took the key, said all right, and walked away. Best decision I ever made.